Welcome back to an exciting video, and this is part 2 of our Kemper and Fractal, I guess comparison would be a good word to put it. Like I said, we are not doing sounds. We are only doing the nuts and bolts of these two units, because like I said in the first video, you can watch sounds, or listen to sounds through a million channels. Did take me a little bit longer to get this up than I had anticipated. Been very busy, been playing. We played Friday night. Played for almost 5 hours Friday night. And I gotta tell you, when we got done at midnight, my hands were cooked. They were done. I couldn't even grab my guitars. My damn hands were so tired. We played a hell of a show. And it just, oh my gosh, it just, every time we'd stop, they'd just yell for more. So we played another song, then another song, then another song. And finally, we just hit the point where we were done. We were just exhausted. Got to hand it to my singer. She went into the show not feeling good and still sang like a mofo. I mean, absolutely killed it. So we had a really good show. And it's just been very busy. I am getting ready to move. And my never-ending quest to find some place that I actually like. And I'm moving kind of slow. But what's actually happened is I'm selling my house that I have where I live now. And so I'm going to go into a different apartment because I actually rented it when I moved out of state and I moved back. And the people that are renting it are hopefully going to buy it. So I've been doing the apartment thing, probably buy a house sometime probably towards the end of next year. So I'm getting ready to move again and go to someplace I like better because I got to be honest, I don't like it here. I hate this damn place. But anyway. So on this one, we're going to go a little deeper dive. We're going to get into the software side of this. And before we get into that, I have had the Fractal now for a little while. And actually the show I played Friday night. It is, as you're going to see when we do the software, when I bought my Kemper, I literally had my entire Kemper set up for just about everything we do, all my performances. I probably had it set up in a month. And that's going through a lot of rigs and making a lot of tweaks, this, that, the other. Well, I've had my Fractal now for a month, and I've got 3 sounds set up. So I basically played an entire show with 3 different performances, or 3 different, can't really say settings or channels. And you'll see in the software, the Fractal works a little different. But now that I have had some time to learn it, which I'm going to tell you, the learning curve on this thing is a bitch, to say the least. The Kemper is just bonehead easy. But now that I've had a little time to figure out how it works and actually how to make the amps sound good, because straight out of the box, the amps are not good. You do have to do a bit of tweaking as opposed to the Kemper. If you find a really, really good rig, it's almost drag and drop and move on. So I wanted to do this video, like I said, in the last video, we did the nuts and bolts of everything, just the units themselves. I will put a link to that video in case you did not watch it. And in this one, we're going into the software. And again, we are not doing sounds. You can do sounds anywhere. This is basically how it works. And also, I go through an explanation on the Kemper. It's very simple. You have banks and channels. That's it. On the Fractal, you have presets, scenes, and channels. And it is, on the front end, if you've never used one, it is ridiculously complicated to wrap your brain around because it's so different from everything else that I've ever used. So I go into an explanation on here of the best way to wrap your brain around it. And once you wrap your brain around it the way I say, then you can start to understand it. Then it just comes into tweaking everything out. So with that being said, let's move on and get into the software. Okay, so here we are, and this is the Kemper. This is the rig manager, and if you hear some extraneous noises going on behind me, that is my dog chewing on a bone. Because wherever I am at, that is where he has to be, so he's literally laying right behind my chair. But on that note, here we are, like I said, we're in the rig manager. And this is actually relatively new to the Kemper. This did not used to be there. And everything you did on the Kemper, you had to do from the interface of the unit itself. And a lot of people kept complaining, you know, because everybody else was putting software out. So Kemper finally came out with this, and it's pretty nice. I got to admit, I do like it. And of course, it's laid out just like the interface is on the unit. You've got your input, and then you just go straight across input, pre, amp, cab, post, output. So it's just like the Kemper in the fact that it's very straightforward and very, very simple to use. And you can see here, these are my performances here. These are the performances that I have set up. I've got my Marshall Heavy, which has 4 different sounds on it. This EVH here, I named it EVH not because I went after the EVH tones, because it's an EVH amp. It's a 5153 EL34, and it is just a beast. And you can see here that I've got my jazz clean sound, then here's my regular rock tone, then here's my lead channel, and then I have my EVH heavy also. And this is actually my main metal tone that you hear on my reviews that I do for guitars. And I have a clean channel, actually profiled from a 5153 clean 412, I'm sorry, a 606. And then of course these two here are the EL34s, as you can see. And it's just a brutal tone, absolutely brutal tone. So you can see all my different setups here. So, and since this is in performance page, this is really, really nice. I really like this, and I'm glad they did this. As far as the interface, I just think Kemper has one of the most user-friendly interfaces in the world. I mean, you can be a bonehead like me and still use a Kemper. That is awesome about it. And you can see here, we can set up to 5 different channels per bank. And this is the beauty of the Kemper. Each one of these channels can be completely independent of the next channel, which means I can have a Mesa Boogie here, an EVH here, a Marshall here, with all the pedals, whatever have you, a Roland Jazz Chorus here, and a Fender amp here. And they're completely autonomous from the other channels. That I love. I think this is absolutely a brilliant setup they did. And the beauty of this is building a rig is crazy freaking easy. If I click my clean channel here, you can see it's going to load up what I have in this clean channel. I've got a frequency shifter here, my amp, my cab. Click the amp, and this will tell you what it is right here. 80 Van Halen 5153, cabinet, Hisu 412, and I have a vintage chorus, a legacy delay, and a legacy reverb on here. And if I click down to my main rhythm channel, you can see I have my wah block in. And here, the secret to running anything high gain, if you're doing it on a real amp or if you're doing it digitally like on a Fractal or on a Kemper, the secret to running, getting a massive tone and having just some great tight bottom end is to put a distortion pedal in front of your amp. That is the key. I just actually got through sending messages back and forth to a guy who bought a head rush. And he was asking me about my tone. He's like, man, you got an amazing metal tone. How did you get that? And I said, bro, the trick is putting a good distortion pedal pre the amplifier. Turn the gain all the way down, set the tone where you want it, crank the output on it, and it just does wonders for your tone. Absolute wonders. And you can see here, these are things that are turned off. These are assigned to buttons on the pedal. If you watch the first video, you'll know what I'm talking about. And I've got a delay. This is actually like a very fast slapback delay just to give me depth in my tone and a little bit of reverb. You can see here my reverb mix is only 24.2%. Pre-delay 200 milliseconds, decay time 1.7. I usually run my decay time around 2 on all my reverbs. And then if I need more depth, I usually fill that in with a delay. And you can see here this delay is only at 284 milliseconds. So it comes off very, very fast. For a good slapback, you want to run always less than 300. I usually run a little closer to 200, but on this particular tone, 284 seemed to work very well. But you can see my feedback is only 5%. And this is the tone. If you watch my guitar reviews, this is the tone that you hear on those guitar reviews. Pretty cut straightforward. And then when I go to my lead channel here, you can see on my delay, my mix is cranked up and my time's cranked up quite a bit. And then of course my feedback, I usually run my feedback on everything around 20 to 25 for a standard delay mix on a Kemper. Not so much on a Fractal. It's a whole different world on a Fractal. But building a preset here is just insanely easy. Here's all the rigs on my profiler right here. Now when you download a rig, you can see from the rig exchange, there's 17,428 current rigs. Current rigs in the rig exchange. Let's see who's texting me. Bada bing, bada boom. It is my singer. All right, I will text her back. So building a rig, once you download a rig, when you download a rig, it's generally going to come with the amp and the cab. And you can go in and grab any rig that you want. And let's say we grab this 5153 clean right here. You can drop it in to the amplifier, and it's going to load the amplifier up, and it's also going to load the cab up. Then you can come in here and just start changing whatever you need to change. This wah, I can just take that wah out. I can remove the distortion pedal. This is for a clean channel, so I do not need a noise gate, so I'm going to take that out. But we are going to drop a reverb in, and delays and time-based effects like reverbs and delays, of course. You want to run these post. You want to run choruses and stuff pre. So we're going to stick a chorus in up here to give me a nice, beautiful chorusy tone. The hyper chorus on this is really nice. The slow is really good. And that's pretty much it. The chorus on this hyper chorus is set pretty well where you can pretty much just drag it in, drop it, and go. And if you look at the amplifier is off. Bada bing, bada boom. We're going to enable the amplifier. And if you look at the amp on this particular one here, this is where it drops in at, where the EQ is. 90% of the time, if you get a really good profile, you can drop it in and be done. And instead of changing it per se so much on the amp, if I needed the EQ for like the mains, I would actually do that through the global and EQ across the board for everything. You know, if your PA system has a tendency to be bottom heavy, go into the global and EQ it there to take out some of the bottom end on that. Now, if you do want to do some EQing on your unit itself, a lot of times I will do it here in the cabinet with the low shift and the high shift. Every time. This pops up every single time. I need to get rid of that. But I'll do it back here on the cabinet side. And like I said, this is just insanely easy to use. It's very straightforward. There's no big tricks to it. And if you can use an amp, you can use a Kemper. If you can use a distortion pedal or your pedals, you can use a Kemper. I'm not going to get into pure cabinet. That's exactly what it says that it does. I'm not going to get into what everything does because this video would take forever if I did that. Here in the input, you can run a noise gate out of your input instead of having to add a block. But the nice thing about a Kemper, and this is what I truly love about the Kemper, is let's say I'm running this clean channel. And let's say I've got reverb, delay, and got a vintage chorus here, which I do not want because it is post. But let's say I want to run another delay. Delay. And let's just do a dual harmonic. Come on, get in there. Dual harmonic. Suspended. And let's say I wanted to put another delay in here. For whatever reason. Quad polyoctaves. And let's say I wanted to stick in a delay in front. Frequency shifter, vibro up. And let's put in, you know what, let's just drop a phaser in here. Eddy phaser. And we have a vibrato right here. And it's telling me my vibrato is turned off. So we will enable vibrato. And let's just, for sake of argument, enable this chorus. You can see I got all these on here. And I can plug my guitar in and this will work absolutely flawlessly. You cannot tap out a Kemper. Now granted, you've only got your 4 blocks pre and your 4 blocks post. And you can set some of the effects here. You can actually set them to be post in the pre side. But if I wanted to, I could run 8 delays. In the Kemper, it would sound like shit, but the Kemper would work absolutely flawlessly. So grab your rig, drop it in, right click, drop in whatever effects you want. Make the adjustments on your effects, like the legacy delay is very straightforward. Let's turn this on. Enable. Feedback, mix, got your bandwidth, frequency, so you can do a little EQing here if you need to. Tempo sync. I usually keep mine here disabled, so I like setting mine by milliseconds and not by notes. And I can turn all this on and it will work absolutely flawlessly with no problems. That is not the case with the Fractal. So if you're going after amazing tones with minimal work, the Kemper is the way to go. But the caveat is you have to find the right rig. That is imperative. Just because there's 17,000 rigs on the exchange right now, 16,900 of them are not good. And if you've ever been on a Kemper, you know what I'm talking about. Going after that one right rig is crucial to getting the sound set up. The downside is you can literally spend days going through rigs. Days. The best thing to do is go on the internet, because most companies who make rigs that you have to buy, they have sound samples. And to give you a better idea of what your starting point is. So it's pretty cool once you get a good one in, and I've got some great profiles. I have listened to all these profiles and I have gone through every one of these, and these are the ones that are currently on my Kemper. Now, do I use them all? No. I use, honestly, about 12 of these. But I keep them on there. You can see on my top Jimmy, these are all my Van Halen, early Van Halen tones here that I don't use any of them because a little more rock and metal. And got some Mesa Boogie stuff on here, a bunch of Marshall stuff because I'm a big fan of EL34s, of the tone anyway. And I've got a bit of Fender stuff on here and a little bit of everything else. And you can see where I've gone in and I've actually set sounds and I've named them. Like this one I've renamed to Roxanne. It's a Vox AC30. When we do Roxanne, I use this. This is actually a Rockman profile, which kicks ass. It actually sounds like a Rockman. And it is great for using Def Leppard stuff. Absolutely fantastic. More Mesa Boogies, and like I said, grab it, drop it in, set your stuff, you're good to go. Crazy easy to use, very intuitive, brilliant design. Now let's switch over to the Fractal. All right, here is the Fractal, and this is one of my settings. This is the amp, the big hair, and this is what I used at my show Friday night, where we played almost 5 hours. That was a long show. My hands were cooked after that show. But again, from this point of view, the Fractal, it looks crazy easy. Let's go to, let's see, presets, and let's just go to an empty preset. So an empty preset, this is what it looks like. So when we come up, first thing we got to do is we got to build our scene. And this is not the complicated part. So if we come in here and we hit quick build, obviously we need our input. We need an output. And then of course we need an amp and a cab. And then you grab this node right here on the input and you attach it to this node on the output. And now we have a live channel. So, and then we can put in obviously what we need in here. But if you do notice, right here, we're sitting at 28% CPU usage. Not a big deal. Let's get us an amp. And let's go with a Friedman Brown Eyes C45 for the sake of argument. All right, actually no, because there's something I've got to explain as we move through this. So we're actually going to go with a clean channel here. So tell you what, let's just type in clean up here. So we can just grab just a basic clean. And let's see, USA clean. We will use this. And our cab, it's for some reason, mine loads with this 1x4 pig. Obviously that is not the cab that I want. So we're going to go to the picker here and let's type in because I'm going to keep a consistent cab through everything. Let's type in 4x12 recto or rec, because there's some cabs on here that I really like. We're going to run this SM57 here. Let's unmute that. Let's go to picker. We're going to type in 4x12 rec again. 4x12 rec. Enter. There we go. And let's see. Let's grab this. Let's grab this with the 121 right here. This is a pretty good setup. I do like this setup. This actually sounds really good running these two cabs. From watching videos, a couple things that you learn on this, and this is where the complication starts to set in here. Right now, if I play this tone, it is going to sound absolutely terrible. It will sound terrible. I've got to go in here and start tweaking everything. That's fine. So, and I'm not going to play sounds. So for this tone, let's say I'm going to have to pull out some bass, warm it up a little bit, push the treble a little bit. It's a clean channel, so it's not going to take a tremendous amount of work to get this set up. It's a clean channel. All right, and we're going to go over here to scene 1, and this is where the first batch of complication actually came in. So we've got our scenes, our presets, and our channels right here. So we're going to save this here to scene 1. All right, so now let's go to scene 2, and we're going to change our amp. So let's go over here and let's grab, let's see, let's just get a, let's grab a JVM red. I love the JVMs. All right, and there again, if I played this like it is, it's going to sound absolutely horrible. And you've really got to tweak on these things to get them going. Now this is a JVM on the red channel, so it's got a tremendous amount of gain in it. So I'm going to pull the gain down. I'm going to pull the bass way down. I'm going to scoop the mids a little bit. Give me a little push on the treble. Pull the presence up a little bit. And now it's going to kind of start to come into color a little bit. But as you can see, this is the authentic amp. Things you would have on the front of the amp for the channel. On the ideal setting, it adds a lot more. Bright switches turned on. That's absolutely fine. Then we have a preamp setting, a power amp setting, power tube setting, power supply setting, and it goes on and on. And all these things affect your sound quite a bit. So on this channel, what I know I want to do is I do want some, on the power supply, I do want a bit of sag on it. Give me a little bit of a spongy feeling. So I'm going to turn the sag up on it. I'm going to leave the tubes EL34 because that's what comes in the amp. And power amp section, don't really have to mess with it a whole lot. But this is a JVM, and JVM has kind of a flubby bottom end on it. So I do want to run an input boost. And I'm going after a killer metal tone, so I'm going to turn the shred boost on because this is going to give me just a really super killer metal tone. I do not need the saturation switch on for this one at all. All right, so I've got this and I've tightened it up, but it still sounds a little crappy. So I've got to start adjusting this, the sound of my cab, because it's a little flubby in the cabs, but I have to adjust that in the amp. So I'm going to come down here to the speaker, and the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of this IR, and I'm going to go with this 412, 51, 53, impedance curve, because this is going to just sound a little better and tighten things up a little bit for me, a little more. Then I'm going to go to my input EQ, because it's a little flubby on the bottom, and I'm going to pull my low cut out to tighten up that bottom end a little more. And then if it's just a little too tinny on the top, obviously I can try to EQ it out, or I can start to pull out some of my highs if I want to do it here. EQ output on this one I don't need to mess with, and dynamics I don't need to mess with. So this is scene 2 right here. So I'm going to save this. And for shits and giggles, we're going to name this test. And this is going to be my rhythm channel. And we'll just call this main, 'cause it's my main distortion channel. All right, so now we're going to go in here and let's say we want to add a delay. Let's drop a delay in here, delay 1, and we'll come down here and let's get we'll keep a digital mono, run our time at 480 milliseconds because I like that. Mix we're going to run at 10 because for some reason the effects in here really appear to be a lot more powerful than what's in the Kemper. It doesn't take as much to get the same effect. And as you notice here, we're at 29%, so we're solid. But I also need, bada bing, bada boom, bada boom, I need some reverb. So we're going to go with this Symphony Hall because this is a very rich reverb. I really like it. We're going to drop the mix down to 10. We're going to move this to 2 seconds. Room size is 56. And if you see here, now we're at 44%. I'm going to take my tone from quality, I'm going to take it to normal. Now we're at 50 to 51% here. Still not a problem. All right, let's go ahead and hit save. All right, so let's go to channel 1. Let's go to our delay and let's set up a delay for this channel. So let's say we're going to run 480 feedback, we're going to run at 20. Let's say we want a stronger mix, 20%. Hit save. But now watch this. Now when I go to my main distortion channel, I go to my delay's at 20%. Well, I don't want 20%, I want 10%. So let's change that to 10%, hit save. Now let's go back to my clean channel. Now my delay's at 10%. What the hell? This is what frustrated me to no freaking end right here. And it actually took me a minute to figure this out. I had to watch a lot of videos and do a lot of reading. I like Fractal, but I think their switching system is beyond stupid. Why they did it this way, I'm not really sure. And I got to admit, I do not like this setup. The Kemper's is so much better and so much more intuitive. And this is what I'm going to show you here. So you have presets, and you have a ton of presets as you can see. You have scenes, but you have channels also. This all has to work in conjunction with each other. How you need to think about this is presets are banks. Scenes are switches, and all they do is turn stuff off and on. Channels are like channels on your amp. You have, if you got a foot controller laying in front of you, and you have, usually on a foot controller for an amp, it'll say like clean, distortion, or whatever have you, channel 1, channel 2, channel 3. That's how you have to think about this. Well, this delay here, we're on our clean channel. The delay is on channel A. Well, when I went over to set this for 2, the delay is still on channel A. But since I actually changed one of the settings, I have to save this to channel B. Go in here and hit 10%, hit save. Now when I go to channel 1, scene 1, this will come to channel A, set this to 20%, hit save. Then when I go to channel 2, now it's at 10%. Well, this killed me on the front end of doing this, because sometimes when you hit these blocks, it'll assign them to a channel. When I dropped this in, it automatically went to channel C. I had to move it over to here. My reverb, as you can see, is on channel A. So I had to wrap my brain around the fact these are banks. This, only way to think of it, these are banks. These turn things off and on. What do I mean by that? All right, so let's say on channel 1, I want this reverb on. On channel 2, the reverb I want off. since I'm not making any change in the reverb, I can simply turn it off and hit save because I've changed none of the parameters. Now when I go to channel 1, it'll turn this reverb on. When I go back to channel 2, it'll turn the reverb back off. This turns blocks off and on. This saves blocks if you make changes to the parameters. This is your banks. And I wish somebody would have made a video like what I'm doing before I spent days messing with this. And actually how I found it is I got on the forums and there was a lot of people complaining about the same thing. How the hell does this work? This makes no sense to me. Why don't we just have banks and channels? And then after reading the forums and kind of figuring out what everybody was saying, then it kind of started to make sense to me. And I was like, oh my God, this is maddening. So what I do now, and this is the easy way to handle this before I move on, and Fractal's a little more complicated, so I got to spend a little more time on this one. So let's clear this preset. So this is how I do it now, and this is how I recommend everybody who uses a Fractal to do this. We're going to go to scene 1, grab our quick build, in, out, amp, cab. All right, connect your nodes. Okay, now here's the other part about this I just simply do not like. Let's say we're going to run 4 different scenes because we need 4 different sounds. All right, we have to build the entire rig for all 4 in this one chain. Where on the Kemper, you can build each chain individually for each channel. You can't do that here. If I need a clean sound, and let's go ahead and just set this up real quick. Clean sound, let's go to, we'll just grab this Vox AC30 here, the Citrus A30 clean. We'll grab this, channel A, it's going to change back to the USA clean, okay. I don't want the USA clean. I want the Citrus clean. So, extra step, hit save. I'm going to go to my cab. Now for this Citrus clean, okay, I do not want these cabs. So, for sake of argument, we'll just grab this recto here and picker and this recto here. All right, I'm going to save these to A. I'm going to hit save. So my amp is on A and this cab is on A. So now I need a distortion channel. But before I get into that, I've got to start thinking about everything I need to build out the entire sound for every channel. This is what I do not like. This is just, I don't understand the thinking here. So I know that I'm going to need a delay in here. So let's go ahead and grab a delay, and we'll just grab any old delay, digital mono that works. I know I'm going to need a reverb, and we'll let the Symphony Hall just ride out there. I know I'm going to need a chorus. So we'll grab this chorus, and I also want a pitch. Because I know I'm going to need a pitch for one of my sounds. And you know what? I'm also going to need a flange. Flanger 1. All right. So these are all the sounds I need for the 4 different sounds I'm going to use in this one setup. I have to put everything in here right now. On the Kemper, you can build channel 1, put whatever you want in it, save it. Go to channel 2, put whatever you want in it, save it. Go to channel 3, put whatever you want in it, save it. You cannot do this here. You have to build everything you need for that song right here on the front end. So for channel A, scene 1, bank 9. Yeah, I know. So when I click chorus, it's going to come up on channel A. I'm going to go ahead and save it. Flange, I'm going to save on channel A. And I'm just going to save everything across this board on channel A right now. And let's turn that on. And let's turn flange off and pitch off. Save. All right, so here's my clean channel, my clean setup. Now I got to go in here and I got to make all my adjustments. Pull that down, pull that down, pull that up. Let's pull the drive down. Level set up pretty good. Pull the master volume down a little bit. Crank the drive. Hit save. All right, and I'm gonna try to shoot through this because this is complicated stuff. Now, when on scene 2, I need a good distortion channel. So I'm gonna go to scene 2, and you see here it changed over to channel C. You gotta watch this thing because this will get away from you and you'll start saving parameters to the wrong channel and won't even know it till you're an hour into your build. Then you gotta go back and rebuild everything all over, and it's stupid frustrating. So I'm gonna switch over here to channel B because this is going to be, you know what, and I don't want that amp. Let's put the Friedman C45 in here. Channel B, I'm gonna go ahead and hit save right now because you've got to, and every time you make an adjustment, always make sure what channel you're on, what scene you're on, and hit save. It'll save you a world of pain. So I got my Friedman. All right, so now I do not want these cabs anymore. And these cabs are on A, so I'm gonna switch over to B. It goes to this default pig for whatever reason, I don't know why. I'm gonna go to my picker, 4x12, enter, 4x12, rec, enter. Let's grab this 57 here. Let's go down here, 4x12, rec, enter, and let's grab this, bada bing, this 121. Let's unmute this. Okay, we're on B. Let's hit save here. And we got to hit save here because if we don't save this, if we have to go somewhere else, let's say we go to channel C and we want different cabs, if we don't save it, whatever cabs we assign to channel C will automatically assign themselves to channel B also. And that's not what we want. So now we have on scene 2, channel B, our amp, which is a Friedman. We changed our cabs. So when I hit scene 1, it's going to take us to our old cabs, our original cabs, plus our original amp. When I hit scene 2, since I made changes in parameters, I changed the amp type, so we had to save it to channel B, and I changed my cabs, so we had to save those to channel B. But everything else here is still changed, saved to channel A. So we want our reverb turned on, but we're going to have to make adjustments to this reverb because this is not the settings that I want for the sake of argument. So now we got to go to channel B. It's going to change our type. We got to go back, grab our symphony, make the settings we want, and let's say I want just a ton of reverb in this, 30. And now save that. Now I'm going to run a slap delay in this also. So here we're on channel B. When I go to channel 1, here's my delay settings. When I go to channel 2, since I'm changing parameters, I have to change it to channel, save it to channel B also. So I'm going to set this at 200 milliseconds at a 5% mix and 5% feedback. Because I just want a nice little slap back on it. Hit save. All right, I want my pitch on for channel B to thicken my tone up, and you see it's saved on channel A. So set it to B. Let's make our changes, -9, pan hard left, +9, pan hard right, channel B, scene 2, save. Now when we go to channel 1, this will go back to its stock setting and it will turn itself off. When I go to channel 2, scene 2, it'll switch to channel B, it'll change the settings where I want it and turn it on. And we're still in the same bank. Now for this one, I do not want my flange on. And I'm making no adjustment to the flange. So I can leave it on channel A and turn it off. I'm making no adjustment to my course, so I can leave it on channel A and turn it off. And hit save. Now when I go back to scene 1, and I know it's insane. When I go to scene 1, it's going to turn on my chorus, turn off my pitch, set my delay and my reverb wherever I want it. When I go to scene 2, it's going to turn off my chorus, off my flange. My amp is on channel B. My cab, since I changed it, is on channel B. My pitch, since I changed it, is on channel B. My delay is on channel B because I made adjustments. And my reverb is on channel B because I made adjustments. Now, we're going to do a lead channel. And like I said, this is where it gets confusing. So we're going to go to scene 3. And we're going to change our amp, but we want the same amp that is on scene 2. The Friedman BE C45. So I'm not going to make any changes, and let's just for sake of argument say I've already adjusted all this. I'm not going to make any changes. So in scene 3, I'm going to use the amp setting of channel B and hit save. But on this amp, you can see I've got the input boost turned off. I can run an input boost here, or I can run a drive pedal. In this case, I want a drive pedal. Even though I can use the same exact drive pedal here, I can turn this on, and I can go to full OD, but I don't have control over the pedal. It's kind of like a preset set in here. So I'm going to turn that off. I'm going to come up here. I'm going to grab a drive. Go to drive 1. I can turn the drive down. But see, I can adjust my tone here. And this is what I want. This is why I want this particular one. And I can fine tune it even further if I need to. But for this sound, this is all I need to do. Now this drive, I can save on any of these channels, and I'm going to go ahead and save it on channel C, but if you noticed, it changed my drive. So now I got to go back in here, I got to pick my drive again, full OD, change my drive down, turn my tone up, click save. So now I'm on channel C, but also I want to change my delay. So my delay is saved to channel A. I'm going to make adjustments to the parameters, so I have to change it, save it to a different channel. So just to make it simple on myself, I'm going to save it to channel C. So let's say I want 25% mix, and I want 25 feedback, and I want 400 milliseconds. Okay, now I can save it here. My reverb, I don't need to change, so I can leave it on channel A. And on and on and on. And you can see where the confusion sets in on this. I think they made this overtly complicated for the sake of making this overtly complicated. What they should have done is gotten rid of this altogether. Just get rid of this. And have these be independent. To where I can build what I want here, save it, and then when I go to scene 2, I can change all that out to something completely different if I choose to do so. You cannot, I mean, you can do that on the Fractal, but in order to do it, you've got to do it all down here in the channels. I could have done without the whole channel thing. This confused the living shit out of me for like a week, trying to wrap my brain around this, to the point where I almost boxed this thing up and sent it back, because I was like, this is stupid. I'm spending a tremendous amount of time doing this, trying to figure this damn thing out, to where in the Kemper, I had it figured out in an hour. It took me a week to wrap my brain around this thing. As confused as you are watching this right now, this is the only way to think about this. These presets, think of these as banks. Because if I go to preset 1, 80s rock, this is all the sounds the way I've got this set up for all my different channels. Scene 1 is my clean. Scene 2 is my rhythm. Scene 3 is my lead. And the only way to manage this, banks, switches, these turn things off and on. That's all these do. They turn things off and on. When you're stepping on your pedal board, you're stepping on these scenes, and all you're doing is telling this stuff to turn off and on. These are your channels, like the channels of an amp. If your first channel is clean, save everything to A. If your second channel is your rhythm channel, save everything to B. If your third channel is your lead channel, save everything to C, and make it easy on yourself. Because it starts to get confusing. If I'm using a delay and I've got it saved to A, and I make no changes to it, I can use it on every single scene and leave it on channel A. But as soon as I change any of the parameters, if I do not change it to a different channel, it is going to save those parameters to every single scene. Confusing as shit. So one more time, banks, switches, these turn things off and on. And as you can see, look at the screen, things are turning off and on as I click them. These are your channels where you save all this if you change the parameters. That's the only way to tackle this damn thing. All right, before I wrap this up, one more thing real quick. Let's go back to this empty one. So we have our amp. We need to make adjustments to our amp, because out of the box that's going to sound like crap. This is going to sound a little better. So I'll tell you what, let's go to C on 3. See? Look at there. It's gone back to here. Now this is my lead channel, so I got to go back in here and I got to start resetting if I wanted to change the parameters. In this case, I'm not. So we're going to use the Friedman BEE. Here's all of our changes. And remember, if I make any change right now on 3 and I do not change this channel, it's going to save those channels to scene 2 because it saves by the channel only. So I've got my drive turned on. Things still aren't sounding exactly how I want it to sound. So I'm going to come back here. I'm going to grab my impedance curve. I'm going to change this impedance curve to the 5153. I'm going to click save. I'm going to go to my input EQ. I'm going to cut the low out because it has a tendency to get a little boomy. I am going to hit save. These are all the things you have to do to make this thing sound good, and I'm not exaggerating. On the reverb side, the reverb also gets a little boomy. So I'm going to cut the low frequency so these really low hard notes is really not picking up a whole lot of reverb. And I'm going to cut the high frequency a little bit to do the same exact thing. Now since I made a change here to the reverb, I have to move it to another channel because I changed the parameters for this scene. So I got to go to C, and look at there, I've lost my reverb. So now I got to go back in, I got to come over here, grab my reverb, come back in here, start making my adjustments on it how I want it. Make sure I'm on C, make sure I'm on scene 3, and hit save. And this is actually a pretty decent sound because this is how I've got my other one set up, and it sounds pretty damn good. Building an amp is just as easy in this as it is in Kemper. Dialing the amp in here is a hell of a lot harder because you've got so many more parameters that you have to go through in order to make this thing sound worth a shit. Turn the sag up on that, make it a little spongier. Speaker, we've changed the IR, changed my input EQ, output, not worried about it on this. Dynamics, not worried about it. Cab, we've got the cab set that we want. We can actually, it's minimal, but when you set these to ultra res, you can tell a very minimal difference, but it is not critical that you use that. And here we go, real quick. Now that I've made the changes, I've got this house set how I want it. I want to run this on ultra res. I'm going to go ahead and hit save. Look where my CPU usage is. Bang, I'm hitting my warning. When it hits warning, your sound cuts off. I understand why they did the architecture they did, but the architecture on Kemper is a little more forgiving and a lot more free. Well, what do you mean by free? I'm going to show you, and then we're turning this video off. So we're going to change this pitch. Tell you what, let's get rid of this altogether. Let's delete block. Let's go to this flange. Let's delete block. Chorus, delete block. Drive, delete block. Let's grab this node and let's tie it to the end node to turn everything on. All right, we're at 55 CPU. Now remember on the Kemper, I put 4 delays post and 4 delays pre. Works like a champ. Watch this. Let's add another delay in here. We'll go to delay 2. That's all I can run. And let's go to a 2290 with modulation. All right, we're at 56%. Now I cannot add another delay. So let's add another reverb for shits and giggles. Oh, I can't. I've got my one reverb. I cannot add another reverb there. All right, so that's it. That's all I can run. Well, that's fine. Sometimes you will use 2 delays and a reverb. All right, so let's go ahead and run a multi-band compressor. Post to that. And like I said, we need our drive pedal back in here. Let's turn our drive on. Drive's going to come up, set up, full OD. And let's say I do want my pitch to thicken up my tone. Let's unable to add block, insufficient CPU. Ding! I'm out. There's nothing else I can do. That's as far as I can take this. Now there are workarounds. Instead of adding a noise gate, see where my CPU is, and let's say for shits and giggles I needed a wah-wah. I'm at 83. I'm in the red. Now this is a lot of stuff, and this is more stuff than I will use on a typical sound, but you can run into, I have maxed this out several times. So instead of using this gate, I'm going to delete block. I'm going to use the gate here. I'm going to set my threshold up here to -40. I'm going to set my ratio to 1.5, and that will free me up a little CPU. And if I can get away with it, if I don't need this tone control, and on some of the amps you do not, I can delete this block, go into my amp itself, go into my preamp and use my input boost. And a lot of times this will work for a lot of the amps right off the bat. And of course I turn my saturation switch on, pull my saturation down a little bit. Let's reconnect everything back up. And now we've got sound again. Now I do not need this delays. I just don't need 2 delays for this tone. I'm going to delete that block because I do need my pitch. So I can add my pitch back in, put our nodes back together, and I can dial in a perfectly good sound from this. And you can see right here I'm at 80%. I've maxed out my CPU. So in closing of this part, the Kemper, you can go balls out. Whatever you want to do it. It works. Put 8 delays in, 8 reverbs. It does not matter. It works. Each channel is its own independent thing. So you can set each channel. You have 5 channels. You can have 5 different reverbs, 5 different amps, 5 different delays. Doesn't matter. You save it per channel. That I love. This, and you only, by the way, you only see these channels, bada bing, bada boom, when you click on these things. So if you're not clicking on it, you obviously will not see it. On this, you have to build, if I'm running 6, let's say 5 different sounds for a song. Let's say I have my opening sound, rhythm, lead, bridge, and a different closing sound. Every single effect I need for those 5 sounds, I have to put in one chain. That I do not like. Now if you get the Axe FX 3, you've got a lot more CPU to use and you can build much bigger chains. I bought this, like I said, and the FC12, the big floorboard. If I would have changed that to an Axe FX 3 in the FC12, it would have cost me $1,300 more. Now I'm way over the price of a Kemper. Way over the price. So As confusing as this is, the one thing you have to remember, these are banks. These turn these off and on. Anytime you make a change to any of these blocks, you have to save it to a different channel. If you make no change to your amp, you can set up 8 different scenes and save everything to channel B, as long as you never make a change to your amp. As soon as you change the amp, you have to save it to a different channel. Because if I save everything to channel A, if I go to scene 7 and I decide I want a different amp, I change it and save it. Every one of these scenes that was saved to channel A now has that new amp. That is the caveat. And you can see here, it's tapping the warning. It's insane. Absolutely insane. So, let's close this up. All right. So, there you have it. Hopefully that gives you kind of some idea of how it all works. I know it was a long video. Probably should have said that on the front end. But there's a lot to cover on the fractal side, because there's just so much to it. It's like they made it complicated for the sake of making it complicated. And I don't know what their reasons are for doing it the way they did it. I really don't care what their reasons are for doing it the way they did it. But as you know, like I said in the other video, if you've seen my reviews, I'm brutally honest. If I like it, I'll tell you. If I do not like it, I will tell you that also. And now that we're on the flip side of that, I'm going to tell you now. I'm going to break it down. I'm going to lay the shit down right now. These are my opinions, what I think about both units now that I've had time with the Fractal, and I've had a ton of time with the Kemper. A ton of time. On the Kemper side, it is stupid easy to use. And if you are not a tweaker, if you want to just drop shit in, adjust, and move on with your life, the Kemper is undoubtedly the way to go. The Kemper is amazing, and I've got some massive tones out of my Kemper. And actually, I was going back and forth yesterday and today with a guy on my YouTube channel, because he's watched my guitar reviews, and he actually bought one of the guitars based off my reviews, so good for him. He got a beast of a damn guitar. And I told you, I've sold more Ibanez's than Guitar Center has. Off those damn videos, and he just kept. He said, "Dude, your metal tone is it is sick. How the hell did you get that?" And I explained to him, you know, typing back and forth, you know, how I got my tone. But with the Kemper, a lot of it starts with the rig. You must have a fantastic rig on the front end, and therein lies one of the caveats. There's a bazillion rigs out there, and you can spend a lifetime going through them. Now, luckily, I didn't show you on the software display. You can preview the rigs without having to download them to your unit. You can basically, there's a button, I can't remember the name of it. You click it, and it'll load the rig, but not save it. So if you've got all your stuff hooked up, you can actually play it and see what it sounds like to see if that rig suits what you're looking for. You can buy a lot of rigs. There are tons of rigs to buy, and very good rigs to buy. And you saw mine, I got the Top Jimmy Van Halen ones. Even though I do not use them, even when we do Van Halen, I do not use those sounds, because I'm probably going to take a lot of shit for this. But I gotta be honest. I'm not a big fan of his early sound, the Brown sound. If you listen to the isolated guitar tracks, it's just unbelievably fizzy and buzzy. And I'm just, in the mix it sounds good, but by itself, I just don't like the tone. I think his balanced tone is just a much better tone. Once you find a rig, it's incredibly easy to use a Kemper. I mean, you would have to be a moron, and I am literally one step away from being a moron, and I can use a Kemper. So, if you're not a tweaker, and you got time to search out the correct rigs for the tones you're after, the Kemper is the way to go. The amp sounds and the amp feel is amazing in a Kemper. And on a side note, again, through my YouTube channel, a guy was asking me about the 2 units, and he said, you know, I don't know if I want a Kemper because the Kemper's getting old. Well, actually, the Kemper is not getting old, and I gotta be honest, I don't see any reason for them to change the Kemper, because the Kemper is insanely powerful right now. They changed the Fractal because they're changing the chipsets in the Fractal, and I guess the architecture that goes with it, because as you saw in the video, I can cap my FC, what the hell is this thing called? What the shit's this thing called? my FM3. I can tap my FM3 out. You cannot tap out a Kemper. So I don't see any reason for them to make a new Kemper, because there's nothing out there that's stressing the limits of the Kemper. I can run 8 delays in this Kemper if I choose to do so. You cannot do that in a Fractal. You will ding the CPU, even on an Axe FX. I don't think you could run 8 delays. Not that you would run 8 delays. But if you're thinking about buying a Kemper, don't think, well, it's been out there for a long time. There's no reason to change it. It simply fucking works. The Kemper works. It is a bulldog. It will just keep chugging along, no problems. None whatsoever. On the Fractal side, wrapping your brain around a switching system on the front end is a nightmare. It is a nightmare. It took me a week to wrap my brain around that. And like I said during the other part of the video, I was so frustrated with it, I about boxed the damn thing up and sent it back. And then finally got in the forums, dug it up, and I was like, oh shit, now I understand how it works. Why would they make it this way? I cannot wrap my brain around that. Again, caveats on the Fractal. Crazy deep editing. On a Kemper, you get a good profile, drop it in, chances are you're done. Literally. Add some delay, reverb, you're done. Not the case on the Fractal. Get ready to tweak your ass off. Not only are you tweaking the EQ, you're going into the amp, you're tweaking inside the amp, you're tweaking the cabs, you're tweaking the IRs, you're tweaking the curves of the speakers. I mean, there's just, it's endless tweaking to get the sound you want. The good side, once you figure out how to tweak it, you can get some pretty amazing freaking tones out of a Fractal. Amp sound, I gotta be honest. Amp sound, I gotta be honest. Compared to a real amp, I'm going to give the Kemper a 99 out of 100. Because, dude, it's pretty freaking close. My EL34 that I use, mic'd up, it sounds exactly like that damn EL34 amp. Profiled. I mean, it's insane how realistic this thing is. It does add a little bit, maybe, it seems to add a little more distortion to the channels as opposed to the real one, but you can dial that out. That's not a big deal. But the sound on the Kemper is perfect. The amp sound compared to the Kemper, if I'm giving this a 99 out of 100, I'm going to give this a 97 out of 100. I think the amps sound a touch more realistic than the Fractals do. And also, the amps on the Kemper seem to handle rolling off your volume a little better than it does on the Fractal, from what I've noticed, especially when you're running super high gain distortion pedals. It doesn't, I'm not talking about the amount it rolls off, I'm talking about just the actual sound, the way it handles the tone from rolling off. The Kemper seems to handle that a little better. Now, would I get rid of a Fractal for a Kemper? No. Would I get rid of a Kemper for a Fractal? No. Whichever one I got, it's probably the one I would stay with. If I had neither one, I was looking to buy one, the thing that would really lean me towards the Fractal, even though it's crazy deep editing, and honestly, I could probably get my amp tones to the 99, but I'm still learning. So right now, I'm gonna say 95 or 96. I could probably tweak it down as good as a Kemper. Where the Fractal shines is the effects. The effects on a Fractal are absolutely amazing. And the way you can run everything in series or parallel is fantastic. And like I said, the amount of effects are fantastic. The effects on the Kemper are going to work for 99% of the people in this world, and they'll never know the difference between A, B, C, or D. That 1% better in the Fractal, to me, makes a huge difference. I'm a little bit of a purist. I absolutely love the effects in the Fractal. And there again, you do have to know how to use them and get ready to tweak your ass off on some of them. Because that's a different video. I'm not getting into that. But you have to do a little more tweaking on the Fractal, even in the effects parameters, because for some reason, if I set a delay on 20% feedback at 20% mix, and I set the Fractal at 20% feedback, 20% mix, there's so much more of it happening in the Fractal that I've got to cut it way down. Because I'm actually, on one of my channels, I'm actually running my delays, the mix at 7%. And it's still a lot. And it's just, it's insane how much more you get out of the Fractal as far as the volumes and the repeats and all that. This isn't you should buy A or you should buy B. This is trying to give you all the information you need to help you decide on which one would work better for you. They're both great units. You are not going to go wrong either way. My Kemper, when I bought this, and I've had this for a couple years, I bought this with the controller. I paid $2,400 with it for the controller. For this Fractal, I got almost $1,800 in the board, the pedal, and the FM3, FC, whatever the hell this thing's called. If I'd have got the Axe-Fx 3, it would have been $1,300 more. I did not do it because it was $1,300 more. That's not why I went with the FM3. I just played my first show with this. I love having all my shit sitting right here in front of me. Absolutely love it. So on that note, like I said, this was simply not an A versus B, but an A and B video. Which one is best for you, not which one is better. Inevitably, somebody's going to ask me, well, which one's best for me? Honestly, I cannot answer that because I love to tweak. I will sit here and tweak on this bitch all day long. Once I understood the preset scene channel cluster, once I understood that, then I could start making headway with it. So this isn't a which one's better for me. This is simply giving you information so that if you do decide to buy one, now you can make a more informed decision because you simply can't run down to the guitar store and play a Fractal or a Kemper. You're ordering it and you're hoping to God that you love it when you get it. So on that note, this is going to wrap up this whole thing. I'm not doing this again. I just wanted to get this knocked out and get this out of the way because I haven't really seen one that does this. And I do know that now that I've done this, there's probably going to be about 4,000 of these pop up because that seems to be the case every time. So hopefully this helps you out and you know, got you a little more informed on which one you should buy. You cannot go wrong with either one. Please subscribe to the channel. If you have any comments, put it down in the comments section. If you have any questions, put it down in the comments section. If you have any questions on anything at all, just not about this, I love answering questions. I always say this in my videos, and I do get quite a few questions. You can email me. My email is linked to my YouTube channel. You can get it right there off the front of my page because a lot of people do email me questions instead of going through YouTube. For whatever reason, that's cool. I don't care either way. But ask me a question, I'll send you a damn answer, guaranteed. On that note, whatever instrument you are playing, play it to the best of your ability. Play it to your fullest and practice, 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 practice. Remember, use your metronomes because metronomes gives you timing. Because again, like the great Sammy Hagar said, you miss the beat, you lose the rhythm, and nothing falls into place. And you know what? Those are words that work for everything in your damn life. Because last night when I was at the bar and I was talking to that damn girl, dude, I missed the beat and I lost the rhythm. A story for another one. But let's just say I crashed and burned, and it's not the first time. So, on that note, rock on, guys.